Right. Welcome back to the FANA Fan Podcast. I am Joe Skelton.
And I'm Topliss, and for all you Groundhoppers out there, this podcast is for you. Well, we've been on video before. We've said a long time this episode is one we've got to do, and we've got him tonight. Mr. Matt on tour. How are you, mate?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, good. Thanks, mate. Thanks for coming on. It's great to finally...
Thanks for having me.
It's great to finally promise what we started.
Yeah, many months ago.
Many months ago on a cold night in Garforth.
Yeah.
There we are.
Yeah. But it does feel like a long time since we were last all together. But like I say, we all three need to meet up in pre-season. That is an absolute
the reunion.
Absolutely, yes. Great to have you on. But,
Mhm.
yeah. Playing to get through, we'll talk about your beloved Scunthorpe United a little bit later on the podcast. I think you've got a lot to say about the season of 21-22, but we'll start with a very nice, easy one for you. But I mean, you've followed a lot of football down the years. Growing up for you, what was your background into football? Who was your team you supported, and who was your kind of heroes growing up?
I guess going back, I probably got into football at age about 4 or 5. My family was a Liverpool family, football family. So yeah, I got a lot of the late 90s Liverpool team is very etched as like the beginning of football. My brother is a massive Liverpool fan. My dad was, my granddad was. So it was always Liverpool, and the earliest I really remember of a team was probably the 2001 treble team around that time. So that's like the first real team that I can remember happening, which was quite good. And obviously my brother played, so obviously being the younger brother, I was usually thrown in goal, and came quite good at it. So when it was my age group to play, I thought, why not? I've done it for a few years now. So I played a lot of junior years as a goalkeeper through the local football, like Saturday, Sunday leagues. And I got into, I still remember my granddad was a season ticket holder at Scunthorpe, and I remember still to this day the first game I got taken to. They were playing Bournemouth at home. They lost, unsurprisingly, but there was something that day that like you just want to go back. It was like it was just something about it that kind of, I guess when you were starting off playing, I would have been about 7 or 8, I think. There was something at that moment that you just kind of had that drive to play, and you had those people to look up to that were just down the road. Obviously, you have the big names, like the Liverpool players like Steven Gerrard, probably one of my favourite Liverpool players around that time. But when you've got like players down the road that you can look up to and idolise, it kind of was more focused towards Scunthorpe while I was growing up. Easier to get to games and get to see live football, and obviously like presentation nights, you'd get players going to the presentation nights to get to meet them quite easily at open day. So I remember just going with my autograph book, lining up down the side when they warmed up and getting autographs. So you kind of felt like there was these heroes of yours, and they were there, and they were human, and you could watch them on the pitch and also meet them, and it just kind of felt that togetherness at Scunthorpe that was, and that was probably the start of the rise of the 2000s. So football in the 2000s was just a roller coaster, really, following them, some of the players that we had around that time, when I started going, Peter Beagree, Paul Hayes was the year after, with Steve McLean, and then I guess the standout name probably was Billy Sharp around that time. What he did in those couple of seasons, obviously, Joe, you'll know, with Doncaster, but what a player he was, and linked up with Andy Keogh, again, another another great player, and the 2006-7 team. It was when we won that league. It was unbelievable. It was the team we had, the players we had, and it wasn't maybe the best team in the league. We had like Nottingham Forest in that league, and other teams like that. And we just went out, and it was just such an enjoyable team. And I think you kind of have that because of that, how close you are and how involved everybody was. It just felt like a big community. Obviously, maybe more recently times have changed with that kind of that feeling, but yeah, you kind of get into football and you kind of fall in love with the game through playing, going on a Saturday and watching them, and then taking that I guess into a Sunday, playing on a Sunday, and you're trying to emulate them, and it took from there really, and then yeah, played right up to I guess adult football, yeah. So yeah, early memories really go back a long time, and yeah, obviously teams I follow, Liverpool, obviously because of family connection, Scunthorpe, through I guess my own kind of enjoyment of going to watch them, yeah, and it just kind of that passion for football really. That's where it all kind of started.
You don't choose your football club. Your football club chooses you.
Yeah.
But obviously back then though, Scunthorpe had been as high as the Championship.
Yeah.
And now today,
yeah, it's unbelievable. The roller coaster of those few years when we got out of League Two, and then got out of League One to the Championship. We came back down, but then obviously we had Gary Hooper, we had Grant McCann, we had a good team from the Championship that came down, and obviously went to Wembley twice in a year. We lost to Luton in the JPT, which probably then benefited for the final a few weeks later when we beat Millwall. But yeah, to go up again and stay up in the Championship with, I guess, the size of the club like compared to that league, yeah, it was such an incredible time. Probably a little bit maybe could be seen as punching above, like the size of the town, the size of the fan base, the attendances compared to like I think I remember playing Leicester and places like that where they're getting like 30,000. We were getting like 4,500, 5,000 average, and it was, we're competing and we're I think we're taking points off these teams, and it was just unbelievable to think like where, because we've always been like from when I first went with the year we missed out in the playoffs to Lincoln, Simon Yeo, that year, and I remember that was the first year I went, and since after that it just kind of I guess rocketed really, and it just felt such a good place to be, and it just seemed always to be on a rise, and obviously there was going to obviously be that obviously going to come to an end eventually. I don't think it could have, but then more recently it's been very different, which is a shame, but I guess it's just the way things work out, I guess. But it's memories that you'll keep forever. Like I remember going to see him lift the League One title. Must have been about 9,000, 8,000 or 9,000 there. Backpack terrace, party atmosphere, and sun was shining. And those are the moments that you kind of, and obviously Wembley, winning at Wembley is obviously an amazing feeling. Hopefully Mansfield get to experience that.
Thanks, mate.
But yeah, those kind of moments that it's so good that they've happened and you've got them, and that's what I guess you take back from obviously where we are now, is to remember what you experienced and what you went through. So yeah, it was such a good era really, that era. Some of the players, some of the football, some of the moments, beating Newcastle in the league at home. That was a night that I'll never forget, and moments like that. So they're all cherished, and they're all kind of, one day we could be back competing with those again. But yeah.
It's weird though, like looking back, because I was just thinking there, you talk about the nostalgia with Scunthorpe, and Donny and Scunny had some good routes. So towards the back end of the notice when we were both in the championship,
Yeah.
I remember we played you, I think it was like 2009, and we won 4-3. And I always remember Jonathan Fort hitting the crossbar from 30 yards, and I thought, Jesus Christ, he had some hits on him. But do you think, going back to those eras, do you think maybe Nigel Atkins is probably the best manager in that golden era?
Yeah, I think that era, everything just worked. Obviously, when he took over from, because obviously Brian Laws went off to manage Sheffield Wednesday, and obviously he took over, and obviously the chant, "Who needs Mourinho? We've got our physio," began, and there was just like a momentum. We had such a good squad. We had obviously Billy Sharp scoring goals. We had Joe Murphy keeping them out the other end, and it was just the whole car and everything of the team, just like everything. We lost Andy Keogh, and then we signed Jermaine Beckford, which, looking back, you think incredible, really, with the talent. Because I think he was only just coming through the Leeds academy. He was going out on loan, because I think he only moved to Everton maybe a few years after that. Scored for Leeds at Old Trafford, and there's only a few years before he was scoring goals for us, and it was. Obviously the momentum we had, and obviously going into the championship, there was just such a positivity of Nigel Adkins. I don't know if you ever heard him on the radio, he's so positive. He's always so enthusiastic and such a good manager. And those memories, I think his personality really shone on the players. He got the best out of players. Because obviously we lost Billy Sharp, and the few that we signed Gary Hooper, who just effectively was a like-for-like goal-scoring swap. So we always had someone who could find the net, and you just got the best out of all the players that were at the club. And I think we've had some good managers. Like recently, I'd say Graham Alexander was a good manager. He had a good few runs for the championship in the playoffs. But I think in terms of what he achieved, Nigel Adkins has to probably be one of our best managers, especially of recent time, of how successful he was. And even when we got relegated, and even when we was in the championship, maybe not winning every week, we competed. He got the best out of them, and that's all I guess you can ask. And he's always so positive. Before the game, we used to always, in the car when he was on the radios, always repeat the same things that he says, in a comedy way. But it was such a good era, and he definitely has a massive part of that. As much as the people on the pitch scoring goals, I think he created such an atmosphere. And there was talk of him coming back this season when we appointed Keith Hill, but me personally, I probably wouldn't have wanted him to come back in at this time after what he's achieved. So I think such a great manager and great servant for the club, coming in from physio to manage it. Unbelievable to what he's achieved.
You should never go back. That's how I always say that. I mean, it's weird. And Keith, I mean, me and Jake, we went to the Leyton Orient game at the back end of last year, and it was frustrating because the quality of football for both teams. You think Leyton Orient had Kenny Jackett, and of course he knows how to get teams out of the league. He's done it before, and the quality of football just wasn't there. And I don't know, Keith Hill, he hasn't really done. I know with Bolton he struggled. He's not really, he's renowned for quite a defensive coach. Were you kind of surprised when they appointed him?
At the time, I thought it was a good appointment. I think that the way we were playing, because obviously the weeks before, last season was a bit of a drag as such. didn't start off very well. Obviously, behind closed doors, we were conceding a lot of goals. The football, the quality just wasn't there. The players over time, the quality from, I guess, if you go back, I think it's been about 5 years now, when we had Dwayne Holmes, Josh Morris, that kind of team, which was going for the championship. Over time, gradually, that the players that have come in maybe haven't been to I guess a level that what we were used to. But I think this season, I think there was talk whether obviously Neil Cox should have gone in the summer and got a new manager in because of the struggles of last season. We brought in a few key players to keep us up last season. So like Jem Karachan came in, Mark Howard, Junior Brown. These players came in, just brought a bit of experience because it's a very young squad that we had, and it was even younger this season. And I think it just this season just never got going. And we lost 6-1 to Harrogate.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I think the atmosphere around the place, people weren't happy with the chairman, some people weren't happy with the manager, some people weren't happy with the players. So there was a becoming a divide. And I think Keith Hill kind of, with his experience, seemed was a good appointment, because he could maybe get the better out of these young players, could provide a bit of experience. And he said that he's staying next season, which I think is a good thing for going into that division, because he's obviously a well-established League Two manager. Having him, and he talks about having football sort of philosophy and everything in place. And so I think it's a good appointment. I think we've gone through so many managers. I think we need a bit of stability, and I think that's where I think we're at now. I think we just need a bit of stability, a bit of, I guess, of someone in charge having the ability to, over time, bring in and establish what they want. Because I think we've had managers come in, bring the players, leave, and then a new manager comes in, wants different players. So you end up with all these players around, and they're either not happy or maybe want to move, maybe not putting in the effort or what. But it kind of became a bit of a mixture of certain managers, players in the team, rather than one. Like, I guess if you look at the top level, over time, stick with a manager, let them recruit who they want, or see who, and over time develop a team that, I think some of the teams now in League Two that are going up, they've been, I guess, a team and together for quite some time, and they've obviously, Forest Green is exactly that. If you work at it for over time, eventually it starts to click, it starts to work, and you see Forest Green, and they were, I think, one of the better teams that I've seen in the league. So. But I think hopefully over time, if we can stick with him, and obviously it's a massive summer for us to bring in players and have a good pre-season and give it a good go, because it's not going to be easy, and we need to obviously have a bit of stability. I think because we are in a bit of free fall from League One playoffs to the National League. I think we do need to almost hit that sort of level out period, rebuild, because obviously National League's so hard, like Chesterfield, there's Notts County, Stockport have been down there for a long time, they've only just got out of it. You think, you need to, you don't want to go the other way again and go further, which is obviously a worry, because the mentality of the place just needs to change, and I think he can probably change that over time, I think.
Do you think that's why Scunthorpe have gone down? Touching on what you said there about changing managers, and you've almost got like a mixed squad. Do you think that's why they've gone down? Essentially, there's been a lot of changes. A lot of it is said about the management changes, and I think when you look at it as a whole, it probably is quite harmful for the progression, because obviously
when we sacked Graham Alexander, I think we were in the playoff places of League One. So, and then after that, we've kind of gone through managers. I would try and list them, but but I think there's a lot of changes. There's a lot of people trying to implement what they want to do and bring in players, and there's never that kind of, you maybe need a few months to really get something going, get on the training pitch, getting your tactics, how you want to play, your system. I think it's just kind of, if the going gets difficult, managers just seem to get it, or someone else will come in and probably do a better job. And I think it has probably harmed us, especially because this season, obviously, we were competing in the playoffs. I think that was a year we sacked Graham Alexander, and then obviously the years after that, we've just been in a bit of a decline. So it could be pointed down to that, but obviously over time, managers want certain players. Obviously, there's the financial, how much that player will cost, and over time. So I think obviously that's impacted us financially. The number of players and the amount of turnover probably has hurt us of who we can then recruit. So obviously, when you're at the bottom of League Two, your transfer windows become harder because players maybe are holding out for maybe a better move. And obviously, eventually, players may not be up for the fight of relegation. So you kind of have this over time. But I would probably say that the management changes haven't been ideal for us, and that's why I think we just need a bit of stability. Someone just to level us out and have a go at going back to the Football League. So obviously, it's all unknown. Who knows what's around the corner? But I think he speaks well. Keith Hill, he always seems optimistic and positive. So and he's obviously had to work with again another manager's players, and obviously he's not afraid to play youth team players, which I think is actually good for the especially for next season, when get them a few months of league experience. And when we played Hartlepool last home game, Cameron Wilson on loan at Scarborough, he's not really been in the first team, scores, and you think I think we've only scored like 26 goals in the league all season, and you think he's come back and scored a very decent goal. And I think it's like that. So I think we just need to get over a period, just develop these players that are coming through and try and keep hold of them and build something. And we just need a bit of stability. That's all I think we need. I think it's all very rash sometimes. Like, managers come in and go in, and the football changes and the tactics change, and you can't. Sometimes as a fan, you can't really keep up. But yeah, we just need a bit of stability. I think what's been has been. We just have to focus on what's ahead, the National League, and rebuild, and hopefully, over time it'll all come together. Because we look at teams like Lincoln. I used them as an example. They went down. Look at them now. They're selling out the stadium. They're in League One. And that's the kind of, use that as an example of, it might be difficult for a few years, but if you get it right over a period of time, a bit of stability, you can rise back up again. And obviously with the momentum, who knows if you might end up back in League One. But I think realistically, stability, and I think it's I think Keith Hill is probably going to be key, and obviously what will be I guess in that.
I feel your pain. It's like I've been with this season with Rovers, so I do feel your pain with constant changes as managers and stuff like that.
Yeah,
it's one of those where you think you look at, you're right, you need a bit of stability in the football club. I mean, I take Mansfield for example. They've had stability with Nigel Clough now for a few years. He's brought in these players, and now look at them. They're in the League Two playoff final. And they're potentially, they could potentially. Yeah, there he is, cheering away. But the one thing that Mansfield, and I kind of envy a little bit, is that they've got it right. they've brought in the very experienced head who knows the Football League well.
Yeah.
Brought in his players. And you're right, there's it's the same with Rovers where, we got rid of Darren Moore goes to Sheffield Wednesday. We're bringing Andy Butler. He's basically having to work with Darren Moore's players. His players don't want to play for him. Richie Wellens comes in. He brings his players. He gets sacked after 2 months. Bringing Gary McSheffrey. He's not really done much, but like you say, you're right. This is a massive summer, and the teams that have come down, say from League One, League Two, and they're having to rebuild. It's a massive summer because players, you're right. They want to be holding out for a better move somewhere higher up in League One, also, a team that's fighting in League Two or a team that's fighting in the National League to get up. So you're absolutely spot on. I think with Scunny, it's interesting because the players, I think the team ethic, I think it needs to be boosted up, like you say. But as well, I think when you look at the stadium as well, it's like it's one of the most, it's the original ground, newest ground that it was in England at the time. I do think it needs a bit of a facelift. Is that kind of something that it needs to be done with the ground as well?
Yeah, there is development, I guess, planned to develop it. It's been going on for a few years, but yeah, the ground does seem, I guess, it does need a little bit of, I guess, for the time being, a little bit of like tidying, like a bit of just needs some like a lick of paint, or because like the scoreboard doesn't work now, and things like that. Like it just it just needs like you say, just obviously when you guys went, probably it does look a bit tired, and obviously it will, because obviously I think it's like testing my maths, but it was built in like 1988, so it's going to be over time. It's going to start to, compared to other grounds you go to, like Keepmoat or whatever, it just starts to look a little bit dated. And we've got, I think with the ground as well, like it could be it's such a tight, narrow pitch. The fans are on top of you. I've played on that pitch before, and you can't believe how close the stands are. They were empty when I played, but you can picture how close, and like how close people are, and it can be quite a difficult. I think Championship players before have said how difficult Glanford Park was, because yes, Scunthorpe's not a big club, but the ground is horrible to play in, and it can be. But I think it just does look a bit dated. I think there's development that's going to happen, so maybe it's been held off for the new stands, new stadium, what's planned. But for the time being, I guess over the years that it's not happened yet, the ground's starting to take a little bit of aging, and it looks a bit dated, but
a new stadium, wasn't there? Like
there was. We was meant to move to a completely new stadium that fell through, there's a lot going on, I think, about that, which I'll leave for here, but it's a strange time. It over the last few, I guess, the games that you go to this season, there's a different atmosphere. It feels quite, some games has been quite like a toxic atmosphere, especially towards, I guess, relegation. Obviously with those protests in a couple of the games, tennis balls got thrown on the pitch, and it all seemed quite, is this the place that I came as like a 7-year-old, and like and like, wow, this play, like it kind of, the ground, the tendencies are dropping, and it kind of just feels like it's, I think it's just the experience of going. Sometimes you just kind of feel the ground, it's suitable for the level we're at. I think if we went any higher, if we was competing in the Championship, yeah, I would say a new stage. I think you have to. I think you have to make it all-seater. But yeah, I think for the level now we're at now, it can cope with National League football and just needs freshening up and just giving that kind of positive experience of going. But yeah, we'll see. I guess for the future, what the ground will be like over the next few years, with obviously the level we're at now, the financial situation and things like that. So I have to see, but hopefully come next season, it'll maybe freshen it up and fresh start, and it clean the seats. I don't know, and things like that. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see about that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, well, I think we've talked about enough about Scunthorpe.
Yep.
But you've been a pain in that. We're going to talk about non-league because, of course, this is where I met you.
Yeah.
Of course. So, for you, how did you get into non-league football then?
Not well. I did.
Scunthorpe.
Yeah. Going forward, yeah. I did have a season playing in non-league football, which is kind of where I think when you're coming through, you kind of know your non-league teams, but you're kind of more focused on the professional game and your local, I guess, team. So like obviously follow Liverpool, and then obviously Scunthorpe. So your local non-league teams, you maybe play at the ground every now and then, or play under floodlights, and it's really cool. But you don't really get that vibe of the league and how big and how many teams that. I think there's often like a negative about non-league football and you'll end up playing for them kind of attitude when you actually go to these places. I had a season in the Northern Counties for Appleby Frodingham. It didn't really work out, but to go to these grounds and experience it as a player it's obviously different to going watching, but you kind of see football differently in a way. You kind of see, you go to places you've never heard of. I remember going to all over the place. Played at went to Hallam, and on that slope of a pitch, and places like that, and you kind of realise that there's loads of football out there, and you kind of hit the League Two barrier, and you don't realise what's below it. Like, you don't realise that the pyramid actually does go like that, and there's loads of leagues and loads of football, and it didn't work out for me as such playing. I kind of maybe struggled, and that kind of harmed my enjoyment of playing. So for a few years I didn't play, but I always had that kind of one day, non-league football is like a good. It's worth the try. I would say, for anyone who's maybe considering it, or if you don't try it, if you give it a try, you'll realize how good it is. The pricing of getting in, the experience of, it's like a community. It's like volunteers and clubhouses, and it's different to go into top flight football or football league games, and it's sometimes like a really friendly atmosphere, because obviously you go into these places, and even going as an opposing player at times, they're always friendly, and you go in the clubhouse afterwards and everyone's together, and it's like a really good togetherness of and obviously there's so many more, like Scunthorpe's obviously obviously the local team, but you've got Brigg, Barton, Winterton, Bottisford. If you're going a bit further afield, you've got Thorn, Goole. There's teams in Hull. So you've got obviously pro teams, but you've got so many non-league teams that you don't realize, and then obviously when you come across them, you're like, wow, there's actually people coming to these games. Like there's like a couple of hundred people at these games, and you just don't vision it, because obviously when you're coming through, you kind of, oh, I want to play professional, but the standard of non-league as well, the standard of non-league football is incredible. Like even like local Central Midlands football, it's great quality. You get great games. Sometimes, like obviously when I played, a lot of goals went in, but you go to these games and you might get like a 5-4, and it only costs you a £5, and it makes you realise that, you know, don't knock it till you try it. Like you get in for a £5. I think Barton did an offer where you get in for a £10, and you get, that includes your match ticket, your programme, and 2 food and drink vouchers worth, I can't remember how much, for a £10. So you get your programme, you go into a game, and get a burger and a pint, and it's all included for a £10, which is, I think, what makes non-league football great, that you have these kind of places that value, like you go in and you kind of have this, oh wow, that was such a generous thing, and like, oh, it's well worth the money. And like, again, the football's good quality, and non-league football, I guess, once you experience it, it's a bit like going to your first ever football game and getting into football. Once you go to your first non-league game, you realise there's a world outside the Premier League as such, that there's so much, and it's not just like local here, it's nation. Like you could go anywhere and there'll be a game on Saturday at 3:00, and a few quid to get in, and it's just such a good atmosphere. And it really stemmed from maybe a bad experience from when I had a go at playing, to then go into games and thinking, you know what, I'm actually getting this spark of, actually non-league football is not as bad as you think again. And don't knock it till you try it. That's definitely the message for non-league football, that once you tried it, you'll be looking on when the next game will be, or whenever someone else is playing, or what's nearby. Oh, it's only 30 kilometers away. I'm gonna see if I can get to it. So it opens up so much, and you follow so much more. And obviously those levels keep afloat. Like these players progress up. One player you could see one week could end up playing National League football or professional football. You never know. So it's really good. It's a really good, definitely great non-league football.
Amen to that.
Amen to that, indeed. I mean, like you say, there's 100 people here. In some cases, some clubs you go to, there's people making noise there as well.
Yeah,
as we've all found out. And how fun that can be as well. As we say, there's nothing like supporting your local football team. Nothing like it whatsoever.
No. And obviously, like the value that you get, it's, some places it's maybe a £5, £6, £7. Obviously, depending on the level of non-league, but you could pay a £5 and, like I say, get a 5-4 last minute winner, and you come away and you think, I only paid a £5 for that. I should be paying more. And there's red cards, there's penalty misses, there's also everything's happening, and that's the beauty of it, that your local, like one team could draw 0-0, nothing happened, but then down the road for a £5, it's 3-3 going into the last kick of the game, and someone's got a free kick, and it kind of like, wow, there's so much drama going on in that game. And it's obviously the quality of a player does drop as the league goes, but the quality of the football doesn't, because especially non-league, it's just teams going at each other, and that's the thing, like you haven't got like one team parking 7 defenders and playing for a 0-0 from the first minute time waste and dropping to their knees every time they catch a cross, like in some leagues. But it's just, they could score, and in a minute's time they could score, and it's like you just never have this unpredictability of it that anyone can really beat anyone in non-league football. It just anything can happen, and that's the beauty of it.
On one hand, you've got Brighouse Town with some ultras and a last 90th minute winner, and on the other hand, you've got Collingham against Askin, end to end, 2-2.
Exactly.
Manager sent off.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. I think you've got to. Yeah, I think sometimes it's just you go and it's like the clubhouse experience. Like obviously after a game, you can go to the clubhouse, watch the 5 o'clock kickoff on Sky or whatever, and everyone's just together. And it's like people get together before, watch the game, things stay after. It feels like a real. Obviously, if you go into a game that's maybe you're not that you leave at full time, but you kind of have that sense that you're in like a little community. You're in like a little these people. It's their lives. Like they might have been doing it for 10 years, 50 years, doing service to this club, and you kind of get that kind of feel that everyone's like one big family.
I belong here.
Yeah, and it's just like a really good environment. So, yeah. But it's just incredible the kind of games you might get, what you might see, and it's well worth, especially if obviously if Scunthorpe are away travelling, I don't know, to Dorking Wanderers next season. I don't even know where. I'm guessing it's down somewhere, but if you can't go to that, you've got alternative options more locally, and you're helping them, helping these clubs because they rely on income of people on the gate buying food and drink, and you're helping these clubs do well, and the clubs around here are doing well. I think Brig just missed out in the playoffs, but won the Lincolnshire. I think it's right. Not the Lincolnshire scene. One of the Lincolnshire Cups, and Barton just were close to promotion, and obviously won a cup as well. So, and I think Winterton just missed out on promotion. I think from Northern County.
They drew
very, very close. So the standard around here is great, and obviously standard around most of that league is really high, and it's definitely worth trying, whether it's your local team or whether you follow a team and go watch them play somewhere else. You still get that same feeling, and some of the grounds have so much character as well, like AFC to Emily in it. Yeah, it's a really unique ground, like with like the cricket pitch the other side. They got like the ground's like housing at one end, and it kind of cuts into one of the corners of the pitch, and you got like a grandstand and terrace behind the goal, and it's just grounds like that just have a little bit of character, and I'd never have heard of it or gone if I didn't have played, but you see these places and you think it's actually quite a good, and there's probably loads. I've only maybe been to a few compared to how many there actually are to visit. But yeah, it's definitely incredible and worth it.
Couldn't agree more. I think, we're looking back at especially the game we did with that Brig Botsford game where we had floodlights were out. There was a massive fight. There was 2 goals. There was loads of singing. That's what non-league's all about.
There was pyro. There was
pyro. Yeah.
The scrap.
There was a massive scrap. There was about 3 red cards.
Everyone was stood waiting for the ref to make his. Like everyone stood with their arms folded, and he was like, "You come here," and then. I was like, well, who's going to be next? Everyone stood there going. So
well, I think we jinxed Winterton's unbeaten record. I think that's why that's why they didn't go up. But it's great though, because you're talking about all the Lincolnshire teams, and we've honestly, I think we barely scratched the surface with a lot of them. You know, you've spoke about a few of them there, just to name. You know, you got Cleethorpes as well down the road. You've got Immingham as well, Grimsby Borough as well. That's in northern counties as well. So, but for you, like you've done a lot of ground hopping as well. What's kind of like the best thing about it?
I think like when I first had a go, it was you kind of get that kind of you know, you're in a new ground. You don't really know where anything or everything is. You have to find your way around, and it's that kind of taking in like new surroundings. I think it just kind of gives you that, you know, you don't really know what the game will be like, or the ground will be like where you, if there'll be somewhere, if it rains, if there's going to be a cover or things. You kind of suss it out, and obviously the clubhouse, and it's all. I think because I'd kind of experienced it in a way before, when I started, I kind of knew what to expect, but not as going as a support or going to it. So it was kind of a little bit different, but I would say like it's really it's fun. It gives you like that kind of, you know, you're in a new ground, you're watching a game, you're taking in a game that you think, you have a moment you think, why am I here? But then at the same time you have that like, wow, this is actually really good. Like Garforth, like, you know, you go to this place and you know, you don't know where you're parking, you don't know, like, you don't really know much of where you're going, but you go, and afterwards you're like, oh, I can tick that off, and everything was amazing, and you know, and it just gives you, it's just that like buzz, and it just that kind of it's like taking in something new. Like I always like up for like a new like new challenge or new whatever. So it going somewhere and taking in like a new environment, new like ground, you kind of get all the experience, like the songs that teams come out to, or pre-match, like those kind of things. Like you get that kind of, you start to learn a little bit about that club as well. I think like Garth, Socrates played for them and things like that. Like they have all these little bits of personality and character, and you get that over time. You have that buzz while you're there, and you kind of, you know what, yeah, this is pretty cool.
Absolutely. I mean, it's weird because I was kind of like, I didn't really start groundhopping until I was at uni, and it was only then I started following non-league. Again, I only, like you, I kind of followed Rovers, so I didn't really know anything outside of that. I mean, certainly with a lot of fans as well. Do you think there's probably kind of a bit of a snobbery against non-league, that people who only just follow Football League don't really know too much about it?
I think a lot of people do in a way. I don't know if it's maybe like if one team's not doing well, it's like, oh, you'll be playing so and so in a few years, and you know, they're like the local non-league team, and it's I do think like it's not fair on them, because if you actually went and saw them play, you'd realise that it's a good standard and it's a good level, and it's not really like, I think it's like I said, I think you've got to try it. You've got to, you know, if you go, you kind of realise instantly, like, that was actually a pretty good game. like you go and you think, oh, there's going to be, you know, they're going to be rubbish. They're going to, you know, this, but you come away and you think, like, wow, like that was actually a close game, or, you know, had lots of drama, like the Brig Bottisford game. You come away from that, there's pyro, there's two quick goals, there's singing, there's banter between fans, and you kind of like, wow, this is like, I can't remember how much that was to get in, but you realise how value for money actually it is. And I guess maybe going forward in the years to come, if people start to experience it, they might turn more towards non-league football, and obviously promoting it I think is key. I think more should be done for non-league football because I think National League gets a little bit of coverage on like BT Sport and obviously teams getting promoted, but I think below that doesn't really get as much coverage elsewhere. So I think promoting it and making players stand out. So like oh, so and so scored like 34 goals this season, and you think that should be like, that's mind-blowing number of goals, but like it should be more kind of promoted to people. Oh, that guy, let's go see if that guy scores today, and you go, more people go into games. So I think promoting it is huge, and yeah, I think people just need to give it a go, and realize that it's good. Like even if you follow your team, you go to all the home games, or you could be someone who goes to all the away games. So when they're actually if your team's at home, you go and watch your non-league game, and then you follow your team away in the league. So you kind of have either end of the scale. So if you're not doing one, you could go to a non-league game and the other, and you can go to one team one week, one team the other week. There's no kind of like, oh, you're our rival, like Liverpool, Man United, like that kind of thing. Like you don't have that kind of like, oh, you can't come here because you've been to watch so and so. It's like it just, you can give it a try, and I think people do maybe put it down a bit, but I think you need to realize what you can benefit from it. Like you can have a drink, watch the game. You're right on the side of the pitch. You're not up back of a stand or a pole in the way or anything like that. Like you pitch side, and you can hear the players shouting. You can hear what they're saying. You can hear what the referee's saying. You've got that kind, and especially some places like Gainsborough, that terrace down the side of the pitch, that linesman gets a lot of stick, and that's the thing. Like you're so close, and obviously there's banter between the official and the fans. People, it's all in good humor. It's all in good humor. It's all in good fun, and I think you kind of have not like obviously the like Football League and Premier League, that there's so much pressure and there's so much like the title race and the relegation this season, like gone to the last day. It could be so stressful for people to be like, oh, but go to a non-league game. It's like a release of like enjoyment watching football. Like you kind of, it's just enjoyable. Like there's just good humor, banter, good value. There's so much enjoyment, and so like it could be like a distraction from your team if they're not doing well or if they're in a stressful situation, things like that. Like it just has so much benefits. And I think if you don't try, you don't know. And I think that's what I would say to it. Like give it a try. Like go watch your local team and just see what it's like, and you'll come away and think, I might go again. 100%.
Summed up brilliantly.
Yeah, couldn't agree more.
Let's touch on the Appleby Froningham then. So how did that go?
I was only playing Sunday League at the time. I had one season at Sunday League men's level, like locally. And I just got a message one day to say, come down for a friendly. And I thought, what, just to watch? And it said, no, to play. And I was a bit taken back. And so I went and signed for them. And it was all a bit like, this is crazy. I was only maybe 18. I think I just turned 18. And there was a keeper ahead of me. I was kind of like a second choice at the time. But we were playing, first game of the season was away at Shoreline Aquaforce when they'd just been promoted. And I remember going to the training on the Thursday night, and the manager pulled me aside and said, our first choice can't make it, you're going to play. And I remember saying to him, are they any good? I had no idea why I said that. And he said, yeah, they're pretty good. And then, yeah, on the Saturday, went to Barnsley. And the first time it really sunk in of the level was when I went past the match parking sign, like match parking £3 or something into his car park. And I thought, that's for my game. And like usually you just turn up at a field and play football, but it was like, oh my days, people are paying to park and like get to the ground, and there was like, it was it's like a rugby ground, I think, the original where they used to play.
Yes. Yeah.
And the main rugby pitch, and there was like music, there's floodlights, there's a decent stand across the way with like a bar or something in it, and was in like our tracksuits, and like it was like you go in the change room, direct back stuff, go on the pitch to check the pitch, which is just to stand outside while they put the shirts on pegs, and stood there taking it in. And they had a mascot. They had a can't remember what the mascot was now. Oh, what was the mascot? I can't remember. It was a mascot, and it was like, this is all quite surreal. Like a few weeks ago, I was training with my Sunday league team. Now I'm stood on the pitch at Shoreline Aquaforce, and with mascot, stadium, match day parking, all this sort of stuff. And that experience, like I still remember to this day, like walking out on that pitch at 3:00 on a Saturday for the first time, and we lost 2-0, 2 world-class top corner goals. I think they were world class. I can't remember how near I got to them, but after that, it kind of never really got going, and I kind of struggled a bit as the season went on, and we got relegated, and I needed to take a bit of a break after it, because I think the mentality of playing kind of was impacted. But that memory and the grounds that I went to and all that sort of stuff, it's something that I'm glad that I did and was part of, even if it was only for 1 year. And but yeah, I to be honest, I never thought I'd even be playing. I thought our Sunday league football, because like my dad played locally, my brother played locally. I thought I'd just play locally, but to go to like Hallam and try and play on that hill and go to grounds that Shirebrook, Knaresborough,
that place.
Yeah. Like these grounds, and you'd never, like, you can't believe that you're here as a player, like on the pitch. And it was just unfortunate how it all kind of affected me. But to be part of it and have that experience is something that was good, and obviously helps with like going to non-league games now. Like, you know what to expect, and you also know the pressures that the players are on, like the training, the sacrifice, the effort. Like, you think the professionals, but like in this level, you have to balance work, you have to balance training, you have to balance your own training outside of it, and the standard is well, when I've been recently, I've realized how much the standard's risen. But there were so many teams, so many good players that I played against that season, and it was it gives you a respect of that level, and I gave it a go, and that's all. I'm glad I gave it a go. But there's good memories that come out of it, like the Shoreline game, like quite surreal that only a few weeks ago I was playing Sun League football, and then bam, you're playing against, I think, I can't remember who they had playing for them, but they looked like they'd been playing for a long time at a good level. I think some of them maybe were professional that had come down the levels, and but yeah, unbelievable. It was unbelievable to be part of Saturday 3:00 kickoffs, being there for a certain time and all that, and yeah, it to this day I think the club still goes on now, and yeah, I don't know if you've been to the ground, but it's a unique ground. It's got the leisure centre behind in like the backdrop, and it's like pod kind of things. It seems like it's something from like Star Wars when you first see it. But again, it's got a cricket pitch one side, but it's a good little ground, and it's a great little club. But yeah, just it didn't work out, but I'm glad that I gave it a go, which is all I can say.
Great story, because I think something few people can actually say, look, I played at a decent level, even if it was for one season. Not many people could say that, and I'll give you props, because I mean, like I say, I play Sunday League, and to be honest, it's one of those where you go, I wish I could make it one day, but that's the dream. But you always know that few people make it as a footballer, and you're right. I think the mentality of that kind of level, even at that level that you played at, is still pretty tough, as you said.
Yeah.
I mean, you think, God, look at the people play, Premier League and Football League. They've got to be mentally, so especially when if you're playing at Anfield, when you've got 60,000 people chanting you, and you've got away fans, you're playing away from home, you're playing at Old Trafford where there's 70,000 people cussing you out.
Yeah.
You've got to be strong, and that's why I've got full props for you for actually playing that season.
Yeah, it was, like I say, there's good things come out of it, like the memories, like of taking in the moment that you realise that this is actually semi-professional football, no longer like amateur kind of. This is like a few levels up, is just like the Northern Premier and things like that. Like, you don't realise like how many steps away you are from good standard football, and maybe you go into a bit naive, thinking, oh, I'm going to be, I'm going to do this, but actually you come up against players that are so good quality, and you soon realise this is tough. This is tough, and obviously going to watch it, you can see it from the side, like how tough it is, and obviously the pressures now on the players, like this is like when people disregard non-league football, you don't realise at sometimes the pressures. Like, I don't know if I think some people get in and they just don't make it. Maybe mentally, maybe they just can't cope with it. And I think you have to give the most respect to those who do it, because it's such a, I guess, there's so many players out there, and like, if you're going to progress, like goalkeeping, you only have one or two, maybe. Not some teams maybe have a second choice goalkeeper, they maybe just have a defender, and you realise that it's so difficult to maintain that level. But then if you go up a level, maintaining that, and it's that progression, and I think it's tough. It is tough, and players that do it, when you're watching them, they shouldn't be disregarded that non-league football, because they're very good players, and some of them may go on to play, like for example, Gaines Trinity, they play Northern Premier Division, and they're only one step away from the National League North, and now Scunthorpe are only one league above the National League. So you realise that there's progression, but there's so much you have to put in, like sacrifice and effort, and if you're not ready for that, it can hit you. And but like I say, it was an experience that I've had. I can keep my head held high. When I stopped, it was strange, because you stop and playing, and you've been playing for so long, but you have to find another way to get back in with the game. Like I got a Scunthorpe season after, and started going to games again and trying to get that kind of the spark back, because it's definitely an experience that I can look back on now and think I'm glad I gave it a go, rather than what could have, if I'd have said no and carried on playing. it was worth a try and worth a go, I would say. But now going to games, you kind of, like I say, have that respect for them and what they go through and the pressures, especially like, for example, Rosington Worksop, like to handle all those people in a semi-final against a team two divisions higher, like, and they held their own and gave it a go, and you got to say hats off to them, because it's tough. It's tough anyway in that league, let alone playing a team 2 leagues above, and so that's the level. That's the level, and it's tough.
100%. Couldn't agree more. I mean, looking back at that semi-final then with Rosington, that it was, you wouldn't think, and I remember saying in the video, you couldn't tell who was step 4 and who was step 6. No. It was just the level. Like Rosington, I've always said, Rosington could compete at step 5, no doubt about it. If they get 1 or 2 players in the summer and recruit right, I think they'll be up there again. I know it's going to be difficult because I know, you'll have the teams coming down. Brig are going to be up there, Harrogate Railway are going to be up there, of course, this season. So, it's going to be tough. But in terms of you, then, go back to ground hopping, then, and we're talking about grounds, and you were talking about going as a supporter now, and doing all of this. What's kind of like the best ground that you've visited since you've started?
Oh, Garforth was pretty good. Hopefully the temperature's risen a little bit since we went.
Not much better in April.
No.
But
I've been told.
But yeah, Garforth was that stands pretty unique. Like the view from the back of it, it's in daylight with everything behind it. Like obviously it was night, but that kind of to watch a game from like that stand would be good. Trying to think like what Garforth was the one that stands out the most. Can't think what other ones that jump out, but
Collingham, Bottisford.
Yeah, Collingham's was different. Obviously, like it was very like the fencing, and it wasn't as enclosed, and obviously, but that clubhouse was pretty good. Rosington's a good Rosington's a good ground. You can see it from the motorway. When I was going, you can see the floodlights, and it's almost like seeing a football league ground on the horizon, like with the tower floodlights, and you have that kind of, wow, that's pretty cool. Like proper stand out. Like some grounds you may not notice until you're right at the ground, but Rosington's was like, wow. So I had a good impression before I'd even turned off the motorway. So that was pretty good. But
Winterton?
I haven't done Winterton's yet. I've done Barton have a good few stands. The stand across, and obviously 2 behind the goal. I think with Barton, I think they could probably do something at the other end behind the goal, like maybe put a little stand for like a little terrace in, because I think that's like where they shoot second half. So if you have like a bit of like an ultra end, but like an end where people can maybe banter or try and use that as an advantage, that might be pretty good. But yeah, I think standout one probably was Garforth, because of the ground itself. Like even like anywhere you stood, the view of that stand is brilliant, and it's that one probably is the standout. There'll probably be another one that I've done that comes to mind later on tonight, and I'll just wake up in my sleep and be like, oh yeah, that one. But yeah, I'd say Garforth definitely is a standout, and as long as you wrap up, highly recommended.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. I mean, I love that ground. I've done it 3 or 4 times this season. I'd go back again next season. But for you as well, what kind, in terms of like ground, and we've talked about that, in terms of maybe the fans, what's been the best fans that you've experienced, and even sort of maybe some of the hostile ones that you've kind of experienced as well?
I've been quite lucky enough to get to some of the Liverpool European games. Standout fans for me, were a few years ago when they played Porto and they'd won 5-0 in Porto in the first leg. So the second leg, bit of a dead rubber. I always remember 3,000 of them came across and they didn't stop singing all night. All night. They were 5-0 down. There was pretty much out of it. And they were all in before the game. They were making noise. After the game, walking away from the ground, it could be a mile from the ground, you could have heard them. They were that loud, and they were 5-0 down. And the game finished 0-0. But they were 5-0 down, and they were just all night. And to this day, I still have so much respect for those fans, because to be that, a lot of them might have gone, we're 5-0 down. You know, what's the point going to Liverpool? We'll probably lose 5-0 again or something. But they held their own, and their atmosphere was one of the best I think I've seen atmosphere-wise. I can't imagine what it'd be like in one of their home games. But yeah, Porto. I'm trying to think like hostile. 58,000 Millwall fans at Wembley was a bit hostile when we beat them. But yeah, I'd say best fans I've seen so far that stand out probably are the Porto from that night. So yeah, I think going to one of their home games or any Portuguese game, they're so passionate that I can imagine even in a home game on a bigger scale, it'll just be incredible.
Oh, yeah. I think when I've seen like the likes of like Ellis Platten with away days that go, like he's done Porto, and the Dragao, the Stadio de Dragao is a great stadium, especially from a distance as well. I mean, you know, some of the videos he's done have been incredible. Yeah, I couldn't agree more with Porto. In fact, it's funny if you say that, I was actually in France. I couldn't actually go watch the game. But I didn't really miss anything because it ended 0-0, so it was fine. But yeah, I couldn't agree more. Is when you look at, like you say, you mentioned some of the Portuguese kind of fan base as well, like, you know, the likes of Porto, Benfica, Sporting Lisbon. When you look at their grounds, is those kind of grounds you want to tick off? Is there any more grounds you kind of want to tick off?
I've covered Benfica's. I went to a open training session there. It was free, and again, pretty much the bottom tier of the stadium was full. There was flares, flags, everything for a free pre-season training session. So again, another, what's it like on a bigger scale when they're actually playing? But there's such a passion in that league. I think that league isn't as well covered here. Maybe because obviously you've got La Liga and other leagues, but the fan bases it's so passionate, it's so loud, it's so, you know, when Liverpool played Benfica in the Champions League only a month ago, the atmosphere before the game and during the game, you could hear it coming through the telly. And for them playing teams like that, there's so much passion, there's so much. So yeah, I think those kind of grounds on a match day, I'd love to experience and see what it's like outside the ground before the game, because, you know, bus entrances I've seen before, like they do like flares and things like that, and the atmosphere, like a Benfica Porto game, I think it'll be such an atmosphere because you've got two big fan bases coming together, and bit of rivalry, bit of hostility, and it'd be, yeah, definitely worth it. But I think it's a very underrated league, underrated teams in terms of fans. But yeah, I do wish it was more covered. Because a lot of players from that league end up in the Premier League and in top European teams. I mean, Benfica, I think if you did their all-time sold 11, it's a Champions League winning team. I think you have like Oblak in goal and Edison in goal, and I think like Bernardo Silva came from there, and so many other players that you could win the Champions League with that team. And I think it shows how good that league is for development of players that are now going into the Premier League and going into the Bundesliga, La Liga. It's yeah, it's a very underrated league.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people say
Portugal.
Yeah, I was going to say Portugal because a lot of people say like Germany's like the best for breeding young players. Like we're talking about Jadon Sancho, we're talking about Jude Bellingham that have done it. Erling Haaland as well. He's now going to Man City. I wish he'd come to Liverpool, but that's a different story. But it's weird. It's weird. Portuguese, because you're right. I don't think I can recall there's too many kind of. I know like Eurosport did a little bit. I know BT, Premier Sport did a little bit as well.
I think Free Sports covers it occasionally. Well, it did, but it's very rare that you see it covered, even on that Sky Sports, like with the tables that then they show like the latest fixtures and tables down the side. I don't think it's there, but I think as well what's good for those players is that when you're playing in front of 55,000 people week in, week out, it kind of gives you, maybe not the standard of the Premier League, but it gives you that experience. I mean, the Stadio de Luz is pretty much the Emirates in design. So if you're used to playing that, then as long as in the atmosphere and the stadium, if you progress to that, you're already ready for the big stages and the big atmospheres and the grounds. So it's not like you're going from maybe a team that only has a small stadium to the Premier League and it's all daunting. Like these players move up to the top teams and then move on. So you prepare yourself because of the level, and you play in Champions League, whether the expectation of winning the Champions League is different compared to maybe Liverpool, Manchester City, etc. But it prepares you because of playing on a European level, top leagues, like fighting for titles, etc. So when you move on, you're already, like Luis Diaz, I guess, is the best example recently of just hitting Liverpool, getting into Liverpool's first team pretty much instantly and an instant impact. So it shows you that league can produce and is producing, and yeah, it's very underrated. And I think the atmospheres and the games are probably just as good as all other top flight leagues, I think. But yeah, Portuguese football is definitely underrated.
100%.
Interesting.
It is. I mean, it's for both of you here as well. You're looking back at this season, 21-22. We've had the first season with fans back since 2020. Has it really been? Has it arguably been probably the best season for a very, very long time?
I think so. So much drama. How we have this much next season,
Yeah, there's definitely been more more. Everybody seems more like up for it. There seems to be better atmospheres at grounds. There seems to be more people happy to be back at football again. I think for when you go for a long period, I know like for a bit in lockdown, non-league football restarted, but then kind of stopped again and then never got going. But having a full season of following whatever team, whether it's non-league, Premier League, you can kind of feel like everyone's just glad to be back and happy that it's, because I guess with lockdown, you take it for granted. Like when you're watching on Sky Sports and it's empty and you think like, oh, maybe next time I won't pass on that, go into that game or go into that. It gives you that kind of perspective that, go while you can and enjoy it. So I think that's probably the attitude a lot of people have done. Like, it's been so long and going and you enjoy it, unless you only score 26 league goals all season, and maybe not as much.
I'll never take it for granted. That is absolutely certain for that. You're absolutely right. I think I think a lot of people did take football for granted, and then of course with lockdown, everyone's gone, yeah, well, let's not do that. Let's actually enjoy it this time. And you're absolutely right. Like people have enjoyed it. And this season, I think, like I say, you're right, Jake. I really hope we get some more drama next season. That is absolutely certain. 100%.
Indeed. Hopefully we'll all be there to see it.
Amen to that.
So we'll finish on the question that we ask everybody. And that is, if you could sum up football in 3 words, what would it be? It could be 3 separate words or a 3-word phrase. What would it be?
Oh, God. Exciting, passionate, and life.
Exciting, passionate, and life.
Yeah.
How about it?
No, yeah, I think that's a brilliant way to end that. Yes, I want to say big thank you to Matt for coming on tonight.
No, thank you.
Absolutely pleasure. I'm glad that we've actually got this episode. We wanted to do this for ages. So, but then,
it was worth the wait. That was very well spoken, Matt. Thank you very much.
Yes.
No, thank you. No, thank you.
And may all 3 of us be back next season in action.
Yes, definitely. This has been the FANA Fan Podcast. I've been Joe Skelton.
And I've been Topliss. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.